Well, good afternoon. It's good to see everyone. Hopefully everyone's well rested from this summer, and it's getting close to being football time. I think you can understand there's a lot of excitement right now, starting a brand new season, Team 117, and our players are very excited, and I think very rightfully so. You know, I think we've had a productive off-season program. You know, our players to this date have answered every challenge that we have given to them. You know, I think I'd be remiss if I talked about winning in the classroom. You know, you have the best semester that you have academically in the history of the program with 46 individuals, a 3.0 or higher, a 2.82 cumulative GPA, and then you follow that up with your first semester of summer school that's even better than that. And then I got a report yesterday which made me exceptionally proud of our young men in our program. And since this staff walked in on December 7th, our team has done 1,322 hours of community service. 1,322 hours of community service. And to me, we talked about before we could even think of winning on the field, we had to win off the field. And it started with the way we conducted ourselves in the classroom, our academic expectations, and obviously how we represent this football program in class. So everyone's excited, but for me, I'm more interested in how this team is week 2, week 3, as we continue to progress throughout training camp. You know, it's easy to be excited now, but what happens when, you know, you go through, you know, the long days of training camp and every day seems the same and you're hitting each other? That's when your team is really born. That's where your toughness is born. That's really where your leadership is born. But when we step out on the football field for practice 1, I'm very, very interested to see how this team has progressed since spring football. You know, the challenge for a new coaching staff in developing your style of play and your expectations, you have 15 practices, that's it. In the NCAA and the calendar, it really limits you in how you can develop your football team. You know, and then you look at a non-padded practices, it's not very, you know, not much of a gauge or a tool to really see where you're at. And so the big thing is as we continue to move forward, you know, how much have we improved our strength levels? How much have our conditioning levels improved? Our leadership, our team chemistry, our togetherness, you know, the overall fundamentals and meticulous attention to detail that it takes to play winning football. That's what I'm excited to see. And then I think the big thing as we continue to move forward is the retention. We cannot start from ground zero. We have to take what we work to build upon with those 15 practices of spring football and continue to progress. We can't be starting back. We have to continue to move forward. And also, you know, individuals taking pride in their performance, you know, our style of play. Every great team has a unique style of play that makes them different from all the other teams in the country. And continuing to develop our group reputation as a football program, and then power of the unit is, you know, each position group taking pride in their performance. And I think just the overall mentality of really what it takes to play winning football day in and day out, the mental preparation, the mental intensity that it takes to win at a very consistent level, the team chemistry, you know, the fundamentals. And I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. I think this team will be defined on how we handle adversity, how resilient we are. And as we know, the schedule is a great challenge, but I think you guys get tired of hearing me say it. It's all process-oriented. Everything in this football program is process-oriented. We're not going to worry about the end results. We can't. The only thing that we can control is being a better football team minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. That's the only thing that we can control, and we have to focus on the things that we can control. And so I think the big thing, though, is our players understanding this is what championship teams do. You know, we always talk about inches make the champion, and everyone's searching for the inches. I'm a firm believer in team chemistry, and I think we all know this. It's not a secret. Are we going to be the most talented team this year? No, we're not. We all understand that. But talent doesn't win championships. Teams win championships. Last place I was at, we won 2 championships in a row, and I believe we were voted 4th or 5th in our conference. but I thought we had the best collection of individuals who bought into a goal and they held each other accountable to the standards and the expectations of the football program. So again, I'm excited to see how far we've come from spring, and then I think you add another element, the component of your incoming freshmen. I'm excited to see where those individuals are and to watch them progress throughout training camp and see which ones will be game ready. If you ask me right now, what freshmen do I anticipate playing this year? I don't know. I haven't seen them in action. And, what you have to understand is, these are still 17, 18-year-old young adults. They're like our children. You raise them the same way, and they all develop at different paces. When you throw in the physicality of the game, you throw in the practice structure, you throw in the competitive environment, you throw in the systems, and the functional intelligence that it takes to be able to play at a high level. So that'll be an ongoing process as we continue to go throughout training camp. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Butch, I asked Justin about the depth chart and what he thought of it, and he said he hadn't seen it yet. Is that a good thing, or what?
I've said it from day one. A depth chart in our program is irrelevant. All the depth chart means is who takes the first rep, and then it's up to everyone. I told everyone, you are responsible for creating your own identity. The way you go to class, the way you represent our program and our institution in the community, how you're able to take the classroom setting to the field and how you compete. That's your identity. So the depth chart will change. The only depth chart that we really pay attention to is special teams, but the depth chart's not a big deal.
But for one of these, you've got two quarterbacks bracketed as your number one. What would one of these freshman quarterbacks have to do to compete for that starting position, or is that totally unrealistic?
No, I don't think it's unrealistic. Is it difficult? Absolutely. But we're going to play the quarterback who can manage the game for us, take care of the football for Tennessee, and put us in the right situation. We expect our quarterback to be the alpha male of the offense. He's the leader. When things start going array, they all are going to look to him. He's the one who's in control. We talk about being in control and a command presence in everything that you do. And I think the thing that our quarterbacks in every position group will understand is every rep is being evaluated. It doesn't have to be a team setting. It doesn't have to be a 7-on-7 for the quarterback. It may be as simple as run frames with the running backs or an individual rep in practice. We're going to totally evaluate every individual, in the quarterback that will play on Saturday will be the individual we think best will lead us to victory.
Which I know the quarterback thing is the easy thing for the media to run with in the preseason, but is there a point, and I'm going to do it, is there a point during the preseason that you would like to name a
Yes, I would. Unless it's really, really close. If someone comes in and distances themselves and really takes hold of this football team and is their leader, we're going to name a starting quarterback. I'm not an individual who likes to play a number of quarterbacks, but I do think that you always look at past history. We have a system in place offensively that will play to the strengths of whoever is the quarterback. You look at last year, we went from a dual threat quarterback. In 3 quarters through the season, we made a quarterback change to a drop back passer, and we won a championship. So I think our offensive system lends itself to that, but I'm the type of person that if a person distances themselves, we're going to name him the starting quarterback.
Can you rep 4 quarterbacks equally to get a good idea, and then when do you like to narrow that down?
We will. It goes back to the previous question, a couple questions ago. We'll evaluate them in everything. And you know what? It's a good point. The freshman quarterbacks will probably have limited reps starting off. So you know what? Every rep is critical. Do something to catch the coach's eyes. And so I think the other thing with playing our great quarterback play is a high level of consistency. Consistency in your performance day in and day out.
Go back to last year when you made that change. A lot of coaches might not have done that. You're 6-2, lost 2 close games. What was your thinking and that prompted to make that decision, to make the switch?
Well, I think it just goes back to we're going to play the position that the player that we feel will put us in position to win football games. Who gives us the best opportunity to win football games? And at that particular time, we just felt that that was the best decision for our football team. And looking back at it, it won us a championship. But, you know, every situation is different. You know, a lot of times different situations dictate personnel changes. So, you know, obviously this is a new year. I'm excited to see what all 4 quarterbacks bring to the table.
Butch, you've done this at a couple different stops. You mentioned the system works. You know, you've done it at Central, you did it at Cincinnati. Is it common when you make these transitions for a football team to set academic records, to set records in community service, or is this team maybe bought in more than some of your other teams have at the other stops that you made? Is that what you feel different about this team?
This team has probably bought in more quickly than any of the other 2 stops. And that's nothing to take any away of the individuals at the other 2 places, because at Central Michigan, our first year, we won a conference championship. You know, but they have answered every challenge to date. But I don't think for us it's not a new thing because we're a new coaching staff. That's the standard and expectations of our football program. It doesn't matter if it's year 1, year 4, or year 10. You guys hopefully are going to be stuck with me for a long time. So it doesn't matter. You know, that's the standard and the expectation by which Tennessee football is going to be run, and that's the standard.
Are you surprised you got to this standard this fast?
No, I'm not. I think it speaks volumes of the character of our players, but I think the other ingredient is our coaching staff. You know, again, you know, when I stood before everyone on December 7th and we talked about compromising the composition of the coaching staff, I said I was going to bring the best coaching staff to the University of Tennessee that I felt would help us implement our program. And I think the transition has been seamless because we all know each other. You know, we've been through it before, so I didn't have to take my time of coaching coaches. They understood the standard and the expectations, so now they could go and coach our players up and recruit that much faster.
What you talked about, all great championship teams have a uniqueness to them. What do you want people to see that's unique about your football team this year?
Well, I think first of all, our style of play is our discipline. You know, good football teams take care of the football. They take the ball away on defense. They don't have untimely penalties. You know, they're disciplined in everything that they do. Effort. You know, every coach talks about effort, but I think everyone in this room knows it's coached on every single snap. Again, to overachieve, you have to play with tremendous effort. You know, team chemistry. You win with team chemistry. You're talking about 105 individuals coming together. You talk about, you know, we talk about all the time, one wrong, all wrong. You know, and that's what makes football the greatest team sport. Is it takes 11 individuals doing their job, you know, executing their assignment. And then you talk about the physicality and the mental approach. And if 10 guys do their job and one individual doesn't, you're not going to have success. So that's why we talk about all that. And that's why team chemistry and trust is critical.
With having a true open competition at quarterback, how difficult is it to manage reps and get 4 guys quality reps? I know y'all go fast, but there's still only so much time.
Well, I spoke about that. Every rep counts, no matter if it's an individual rep, whether it's every rep in practice. They'll have plenty of reps. We're going to camp with 4 quarterbacks. I worry about sore arms. So they're going to have plenty of opportunity. Routes on air. You know, one of the best, you know, everyone talks about team situations and all that. Some of the best practice occurs in routes on air versus a quarterback. Just ask Peyton Manning. You know, that's his best part of practice, is you're earning that trust with your receivers. You're learning their body language, how they speak to you non-verbally when they're coming out of cuts and breaks. So every rep is going to be very detail-oriented and focused on greatly.
Do you get the sense that the quarterbacks, especially maybe the younger 2 kids, understand that every rep counts, that, you know, it's not just the 11 on 11 at the end of practice, or it's not just the team periods, it's the routes on air, it's those little things. Do you think they understand that?
If they don't, they better in a hurry. But yeah, they will. You know, when we start our team meeting day 1, everyone's going to know. It's not just the quarterbacks. I mean, we got to find out who the next offensive lineman is. You know, and unfortunately, we may have to rely on some true freshmen to play up front in the line of scrimmage. And I'm more concerned about that, is who's number 6, who's number 7. So our players will know, and they will, if they don't, they will understand that every rep is critical as we continue to grow and develop Team 117.
What have been your impressions of Kurt Midget physically and just how his attitude's been as he comes back from the ACL?
You know, Kurt's been through a long haul, and you know, I say it all the time, is we live in such a sports-center society, is, you know, you go home and all you do is when you put the TV on, you see all the highlights. What you don't see is the resiliency and the perseverance that individuals like Kurt Midget have had to work themselves back into playing shape. And Kurt, I tell you what, I learned very early being here, he's one of our leaders on this football team. And it's hard to be a leader when you're, quote, so to speak, not in the fray with your teammates. And, you know, it was hard him standing back in the spring, but he still led. You know, he's the one that's leading our football team, one of our leaders. So I'm excited to get him back on the field. I do think we have to be patient with him. It's going to be a process of going through what he's been through. But I know he's excited to get back out on the football field.
Players on both sides of the field today talked about the respect that they have for Worley from a leadership standpoint. What have you seen out of Justin in that regard?
He's consistent. You know, we talk about consistency in performance. And, you know, I always say I want a McDonald's team. What's a McDonald's team? You go anywhere around the country and you order a #1 meal, you know what you're getting. You know, that's what we want out of our quarterbacks, is consistency day in and day out in our entire team. You know, I don't like teams that are emotionally up and down. I just want teams that come to work every day. And Justin has been that. We've challenged him, and you know what you're getting every single day.
Speaking of up and down, what's the status kind of Marlon Lane and his return over the summer?
Marlon will be back, and he's done everything to warrant reinstatement to this football team, but he also understands the expectations and the standards, and he's going to have to earn his way back. Nothing in this football program is given. You know, it's a right, it's an honor, and it's a privilege to play for the University of Tennessee. And so he understands that, and he has to start rebuilding that trust with the coaching staff, his teammates, and that started this summer. He's done a great job, and moving forward now into August camp.
You haven't seen Brian Randolph completely 100% out there yet, but what has he shown you that makes you think, you know, he's going to be important?
Again, I go back, all great players have it. He has a very high level of consistency. You know, you're knowing what you're getting with Brian. Very positive, hard worker, can take the classroom setting to the field. And so, you know, again, is he 100%? No, he's probably 92, 93%. But again, everything is about competition. And you look at the safety position, I feel that's one of the positions right now where we're going to have great competition. But also, Brian improves our special teams. And for this team to excel, we have to play great special teams. And great special teams, I think, tell you the makeup of your football team. They tell you your toughness. They tell you everyone's role understanding. Have they bought into the program? And there may be individuals that take 5 reps and that's it. But if that left guard and that punt team, and that's the only thing he does, then he's going to be the best left guard in the country. And that's the mindset that we take with special teams. So Brian adds a whole nother element in all factors to our program.
Which a number of defensive players commented on the hard work of Dante Vassap, that they kind of feed off of that. Is that something that you saw in the spring that really elevated him at that linebacker spot?
Absolutely. Love him. He's done anything and everything that we've asked of him, and it started from day one. And I thought ending spring, he was one of our most consistent players. He could start on every single special teams that we have and make an impact in the game that way. He's one of our starting linebackers. I think he's explosive. We've really challenged him in the strength and conditioning area with you know, the neck and the traps, and I don't know if he brought it up, but I joke with him about it all the time. But he's really answered the challenge, and he's playing right now, and he's leading the way a senior should.
But you've got 5 true freshmen on the depth chart. How much of that was just based on what they did in the summer, and how much they impressed you by their summer workouts?
Well, again, I wasn't able to watch summer workouts, but I think that's the position of need. And it's like I told everyone. Everyone had 15 practices to prove themselves. If they didn't prove themselves in 15 practices, we're going to look to true freshmen coming in because they haven't had those 15 practices to prove themselves. So I think some of it is just where we're at in the program in terms of depth. I think that's probably, Jimmy, that's probably the biggest thing.
Coach, you mentioned the safety position. Are there other areas that you're looking forward to seeing some great competition this camp?
Every position. I think, make no mistake about it, you win up front. It's a line of scrimmage league, and I'll say it, we'll be as good as Dan McCullers goes. It is what it is. And I think Dan has had a great summer strength and conditioning season. You look at his body, I think he's a very, very slim now, 360 plus. He looks great. We talk all the time, and I'm excited for him because he's worked himself into having that opportunity to really make an impact. The impact, I think the biggest storyline with our defense is how we hold up inside at the defensive tackle spots. I think that's the whole key. Everyone wants, the naked eye wants to point to the back end of the defense, to the secondary. But really it stems with winning up front, being able to win your one-on-one matchups. Then it's a compliment if you're double teamed, and then who's ever double teamed, now it's up to them to win their one-on-one matchup. So I'm really the defensive line is going to be big. I think the development also for future years to come with all of our freshmen there. And like I spoke earlier in the press conference, is finding out the depth in the offensive line. And then obviously we have to replace a ton of production outside the numbers at the receiver position. And so I think the competition there and seeing what some of our true freshmen can bring to the table.
What has made Brennan Downs the first team tight end? Is he still a little nicked up?
He's back full strength, and we thought he was one of the most improved players we had in the spring from, the moment we started our standard periods or our morning workouts, and then unfortunately his spring was cut short due to some injuries, but he's back, and he earned that right to start off rep number one at the tight ends. But I do think that's going to be, obviously another position that's going to have great competition, and all good football teams have competition across the board. There are no off days. And they'll learn the Wally Pipp story and all that. But I really believe that is, you take a day off or you're not mentally focused, you're not tuned in, that's somebody's opportunity to come and take your job.
Who was the most consistent wide receiver coming out of spring for you guys?
That's a hard question to answer because we were so banged up. I got really excited the way Jason Kroom was progressing, and then he was set back with injury. Cody Blank was set back a little bit from injury. So, I wasn't pleased with the overall consistency with that unit from practice 1 to practice 15, and a lot of that was due to injury, and that's where we have to take the next step.
But you've talked about the number of practices you've got. Do you almost consider, before you hit the gauntlet of Oregon, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, those first 2 home games to almost be an extension for you to figure out who you can count on for the season?
Well, I think that's going to be an ongoing process, but we don't have time. Every rep is critical because that's what makes college football different than any other sport is every game matters. The regular season matters. And one bad day can take you from your dreams, goals, and aspirations. You work exceptionally hard for 12 opportunities, working to get to 13 opportunities, working to get to 14 opportunities. But really, that's why we're doing that open practice. You talk about relying on individuals. That idea was born in my office talking with Peyton Manning. And we're talking about, in the NFL, they have the luxury of preseason games. So a coaching staff pretty much knows everything you're talking about. They understand how their players are going to perform in stressful situations. I've seen this team 15 times, and we're going to be a different team in training camp than we were in spring football. So why the open practice? We're going to treat it almost like a preseason game in that I want to create pressure situations. I want our offense to have to execute 1-minute drill. I want our kickers to execute when there's people in the stands. I don't want us to perform the first time August 31st against Austin Peay. I don't want that to be the first time with this team. So that's really where the idea was formulated and born with having an open practice.
His idea?
Both of ours. And I think we all know when Peyton Manning speaks, we all listen because he can bring a lot to the table.
What were his thoughts on it?
He liked the idea. You know, this is the first time for me in a number of years where we're not going away for training camp. You know, I kind of like the change of scenery. I kind of like getting away. You know, but we have tremendous facilities here at Tennessee. We have a dormitory complex that's right across the street. So it's kind of like being away, but I think, you know, you have to do a good job as a coach to stimulate your players and not become routine-oriented when you become into the second, third week of training camp. So I think to have the ability to go into Neyland Stadium, compete in front of our great fan base, kind of treat it into a game atmosphere, plus for the freshmen. You know, and everything is new. Even what a lot of people don't think about is the way we travel. You know, our first night in the hotel before the Austin Peay game will be a completely different routine for these kids. So change is good, but everything is new as we continue to move forward. So that's why, you know, you have to do your diligence and you have to pay attention to the small details.
Butch, I'll relay a question from the fan base. At some point, are you likely to break out a special uniform?
Well, I will tell you this. In today's world of recruiting and the age that we live in, that's something that's kind of been important to programs. I respect the great tradition we have here. I think I've proven that. Everything is about our tradition, but we will continue to look and evaluate that, and if that's best for us, we will do that. So there may be something coming, but everything that we do, and if we do it, we'll respect our traditions here at Tennessee.
But you talked about the importance of leadership with the quarterback, and everybody talks about that. Do you think these guys have to be natural leaders to begin with and then develop from there? Can you take somebody that doesn't really have leadership skills and build that?
Well, I think you can build upon it. And I think before you can be a great leader, you have to be a great teammate. You have to learn what it takes to be a great teammate. And I do think there's some inherent to being a leader, but leadership is a skill that has to be practiced every day. And before you can be a leader to everyone else, you have to lead yourself. And really, leadership is influence. That's why there's good leaders, and that's why there's bad leaders, and not everyone can lead. Also, with being a leader, and it talks right from the head coach to the quarterback, these are usually the two, it's called responsibility of command. You know, there's a responsibility that comes with being a leader. So in our program, we practice leadership every day. We have a leadership training session that'll be a yearly that our players will go through, and it's developing leaders. But I do think there's some traits that maybe differentiate other human beings, but it is something that can be practiced, and if they can't, then be a good teammate.
You talked about McCullers, and I know you and your staff really pushed him back in the spring. You guys also kind of pushed A.J. Johnson a lot too. How do you, in the limited interaction you've had with A.J., how have you seen him respond, and what do you need from him in training camp and move forward to the season?
Need a high level of consistency with A.J. And everything that we have challenged A.J. with, he has responded. I think he's in the best shape of his life. He plays exceptionally hard. He's really bought into the standard. Now, A.J. has to do a great job of improving his leadership skills. You know, just like the quarterback is usually the alpha male of the offense, the middle linebacker is the alpha male of the defense. And so I think him continuing to work on that part of his game, but you look at his body, he's had a tremendous offseason. And so I'm encouraged, just like Dan McCullers. Now, if you can get Dan to say more than 5 words, you've done a great job. But Dan has a quiet confidence about himself right now.
What did you learn over the course of your career as a coach that communication between the coaches is so important to players? And do you think this group of guys sort of picks up on the fact that y'all worked together, some of you, in the past?
Sure. Well, everything starts with the head coach and the coaching staff. And the head coach, this is why I love being a head coach. You get to paint the vision for what you want. You create the environment. You create the atmosphere. You create the morale. That's just like we had an organizational meeting of every individual in our football program that has an impact on the daily lives of every football player. We had I believe we had over 150 individuals at that meeting, and it all connects. You know, it doesn't matter if it's the individual at Gibbs Hall in the cafeteria serving our players, or the custodial staff, recruiting department, head coach, assistant coach, Jimmy Stanton. It doesn't matter. It all connects. And so it stems with us first. And I think if you have a staff that has great chemistry and loyalty, kids are smart. They can feel it. And I think when they see it, it fosters that environment throughout your program. It permeates everything. And I think that our players can feel it. And it's just us being who we are. You know, we work exceptionally hard, but, you know, we spend 80 hours together with each other. We better like each other, and we better respect each other. And the great thing is our families. You know, and maybe it's irrelevant, but one of the great things for me to watch is back in 1998, John Jancik's 16-year-old, my 16-year-old, and Willie Martinez's 16-year-old were back in the day best friends. Through coaching transitions, they're not together, and now they're back together, and they're all going to school together. And to me, those are the things that are rewarding when you have that family atmosphere, is just watching all that. And hopefully our players can feel it because it's genuine and it's real.
Eric Gordon isn't in the media guide. Is there still a possibility he can return to the team this fall, or is he no longer?
You know, unfortunately, Eric is no longer part of our football team, but he'll always be a part of our football program. And the big thing for Eric is we're working on, he's real close to graduation, and so we're going to do everything that we can to support Eric.
You mentioned team chemistry. How do you coach that, or can you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part, but it's also with the individuals. You know, I think it's them understanding, you know, and they're earning trust, you know, amongst their peers, and trust is earned over time. But I think it's doing different events. You know, when we first came here, we did a name test, you know, and the guys had 3 minutes, and there was a picture of names, and they had their first and last names. And then we charted what names were missed, and we charted what names are missed, but also the individuals who are missing those names. You know, and that's all part of a family. You know, the Vol Olympics, you know, it fosters team chemistry. It also fosters leadership. You know, so I think everything we do in our program is about the personal development of our players. It's not just football. When they leave the University of Tennessee, they're going to be the best person they can be, the best student. And like I told them, whether it's your first day in an NFL minicamp, or whether it's your first board meeting, your first job, you're going to be different the way you walk in that room because you were developed in our football program.
Thanks very much, guys.